Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, I'll be ranking every single tier 10 in World of Tanks Blitz. There's a lot of tier 10s, as we can see. So this video will definitely be a longer one. I'm going to try and make it as fast as possible. I might speak a little faster, so keep up. But with that being said, I'll be breaking into every single tank and their gun variants. For example, the E100 has two very good guns. It has a 12.8 with almost 3,000 DPM, and it has a 15 centimeter, which has much less DPM, but much more alpha and premium penetration. Both guns are great. Really depends on your playstyle, and that's why I'll be ranking every tier 10 on their different gun options on how competitive they are. The categories we have are needs nerf, pretty self-explanatory. It's vehicles that are too strong that need to be rebalanced. We have super strong, which is kind of like as close as you can get to overpowered without breaking the game. We have good and average. I don't need to explain those two. And then we have needs buff. These are vehicles that I think are not very good right now and obviously need some reworking. So, with that being said, I am currently ranked number 3 in average damage for the NA server, so I'd hope that you take my opinions into actual consideration when you hear them. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Starting off, we got the 114 SP2, a tier 10 Chinese collector heavy, a vehicle that I'm definitely going to be putting right into the needs buff category. I want to clarify, I don't think the 114 SP2 is a terrible tank. I think in reality, I'd probably put it into like average, but I do think it needs a buff to keep up with the rest of the meta. The problem is, while it does have decent turret armor, it just doesn't have enough flexibility versus all the other tier 10s. Its gun is terrible on accuracy. It only achieves a top speed of 32, and its hull armor is really bad. Personally, what I would do to this tank is I would buff its top speed to 40, and I would buff its accuracy by about 20%. These two things would allow the 114 to actually be a somewhat mobile heavy with a big alpha gun, and it would allow it to hit its shots. It wouldn't make the tank overpowered, the armor would still be pretty and that way it keeps its playstyle, but it's just a little bit more flexible and it can actually penetrate shells. That's what I would do to the 114, and that's why I'm putting it into the needs buff category. Now we have the WZ116 F3, which is the newly buffed tier 10, and yeah, this tank is actually really good now. I'm going to put the 116 F3 with the auto reloading gun into super strong. It really is a super strong tank. I don't think it needs a nerf. I think that it's still pretty easy to counter the thing. It only has 2200 DPM, and that's at most effective. And while it does have reactive armor and really good hull armor now, it's still not a vehicle that I'm necessarily scared of. I think if you know how to deal with it, it's not too challenging. But when it does have its shells loaded, and especially reactive armor, it is a very dangerous tank. So I think super strong is a pretty good place to put the vehicle. It's definitely a tank that I consider to be super strong. With the 490 alpha gun, I'm going to put it into good. I think with the 490 alpha gun, it's definitely better now because Wargaming buffed its accuracy, and I don't remember exactly what else they buffed, but the gun got a little bit better. It's a little bit more accurate, its aiming time slightly better, and that allows the gun to be just a little bit more effective. Unfortunately, its accuracy is still terrible, and I can't enjoy a gun that misses half the shots. So because of that, I'm going to be putting it into good with the 490 and super strong with the auto reloader. As I always say, more shells, the better the tank. Now we arrive to the BZ75. This is the Tech Tree Tier 10 Chinese Heavy, and we have two different guns. We'll start off with the 130mm, which I'm going to put into average. I don't think the 130 needs a buff. I just think it's average. There's nothing truly spectacular about the gun. It's just a 460 alpha with solid penetration, but the problem is the tank itself doesn't have good armor. Its turret is pretty poor. You might get the occasional troll bounce on the turret, but the hatches are huge. It has massive cheek weak points. Even the under part of the turret you can overmatch and shoot through. So because of that, I just don't think that the 130 makes sense. With the 152mm, I think the BZ75 goes into good. I think it's a really, really good vehicle with that gun. It's got 620 damage per shot, surprisingly good accuracy for what it is, and with the 8 degrees of gun depression and great mobility, paired with a gun that can roll 780 damage per shot with Hesh, it's pretty nice. I really do like the BZ75 with that 152mm. It's definitely not the easiest tank to drive, but if you know what you're doing, you can definitely take apart the enemies. We have the BZT70, which we're going to drag to the bottom because that vehicle is not released yet, so I'm not going to share my opinions on a tank that isn't in the game. We have the WZ111 5A, which I'm actually going to put into the good category. I think the 5A is very underrated. The gun depression paired with the overall mobility allows the 5A to actually be an incredibly capable tank. I don't think it's as strong as the vehicles I'll be putting into Super Strong, but I do consider the 5A itself to be a very capable vehicle. I think people are incredibly wrong when they call it bad. I do very well in it statistically. I don't know if I have Blitz open. I do. Let me see the stats that I've been performing in my 5A. So we can just get a quick idea. And I've been going 86% with 3,600 average damage with 27 games on the press account. It's a great example to showcase that this vehicle is definitely a solid performer. I think people just call it bad because that's what tradition's been, but it's definitely not correct. It's got so much mobility, great gun depression, solid turret armor, and overall, it's just a really fun tank because of that. So I really like the 5A. It's definitely going to go into the good category. I still don't know why Wargaming refuses to buff a T-Pen, but that's really the only downside I can come up with. Next, we arrive to the Tier 10 Chinese Tech Tree Heavy, the WZ-113. And the 113, I'm going to currently put into the average category. I think that it is kind of average, to be honest. There are certain aspects I really like about the 113. It's very mobile. It achieves a top speed upwards of 45 kilometers per hour, making it one of the most mobile heavies in Tier 10. It also has fantastic heat pen at 390 millimeters. It also has great turret armor, which is super hard to cut through. The problem is the upper plate on the 113 is terrible, which means that everything is going to cut through it, especially with the calibrated shells buffs. It just really hurt the 113's upper plate. Its gun is not very accurate, its aiming time is pretty derpy, and it has APCR standard. So even though it has the best heat pen for a Tier 10 heavy, it has some terrible standard pen. So you're basically forced to load gold half the shells you shoot, which then takes away the effective DPM. I like the 113, but there's also moments when it feels really, really annoying to drive, and because of that, I think I'm going to put it into the average category. You know what, we'll slide it up to good. That's where I'll put it. But it has some things that I really don't love about it, and because of that, it's just back and forth for me on where I want to put it. But I think it still can do pretty good, so I guess I'll leave it in good. The WZ-113 GFT is definitely the first vehicle I'm going to put into the needs nerf category. Even after it was nerfed, it is still the second highest performing Tier 10 in the game. It's not a shocker. Its frontal protection is almost 400 millimeters thick. It has a gun that has great DPM and alpha. It has incredible levels of mobility, including reverse speed. And when you add all those things together, it still allows the 113 GFT to be one of the most brain-dead Tier 10s in the game. If you were to ask me what I would do to nerf this vehicle, I think it would be pretty easy. There's two different routes you can choose. The first route is to lower the effective damage per minute. Right now, it's got about 2,700 DPM. If you lower that to like 2,400, it would make it more like a heavy tank, where it has similar DPM to heavies. So even though you hit hard, it wouldn't be as good at just dishing out the damage. The second way to balance it would be to nerf the mobility. Instead of achieving a top speed of 42 and having really good traverse speed and reverse speed, nerf its mobility, change its top speed from 42 to 35, remove its power to weight, and that would stop the vehicle from being as effective in the front line. I think those two balances, one or the other, would be a solid way to balance it. But right now, it kind of has everything going for it, and that's why it's still one of the most played and brain-dead Tier 10 tanks. We have the WZ-121, which I'm going to put into the super strong category. I love the 121. It's got great mobility, a solid gun with 420 damage per shot. It has great DPM, and it has reactive armor, plus tungsten. I mean, the 121 really has every opportunity to do well. I don't even know what the best loadout is. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I want to run reactive and tungsten, but other times I'm like, ooh, I want to run adrenaline and tungsten, because that gives you a really nasty damage per minute output. But either way, 420 alpha with the best aiming time in Tier 10, with a surprisingly accurate gun as well, allows the 121 just to absolutely dominate the matches it's placed in. Now, it does have downsides. It has a very weak ammo rack, and it doesn't have great gun depression. 6 degrees at the max over the sides, only 5 over the front. But it doesn't make a difference. I still think the 121 is a very fun, mobile, and flexible tank to drive, and because of that, I'm going to put it into the super strong category. WZ-121B is just going to be one place below the 121. The 121B used to be amazing, but unfortunately it's definitely lost its spark just a little bit because of the other Tier 10s that now feature the same ability. The 121B was the first Tier 10 medium to feature adaptive concealment, which means that you can see who spotted you, and when you're unspotted, plus you get unspotted 3 seconds faster. And it was really nice. But then Wargaming gave adaptive concealment to the Leopard 1, and they gave it to basically every other tank, and even the tanks that don't have it, like the E50M, got a big buff. So the 121B is still good. It's got really good turret armor, really good hull armor, just like the 121. It also has good mobility and a really accurate high DPM gun. But when you compare it to vehicles like the E50M or the M48 Patton, it just doesn't stand much of a chance. And that's why it's going to go into the good category. I don't think it needs to be buffed. I don't think it needs to be nerfed. I think where it is currently is really good. So I think it should stay in the state that it is. I just wish vehicles like the E50M didn't, dominate the matchmaker. WZ-132-1 is going to go into the super strong category. It's a very tricky tank to drive. It's probably the hardest tier 10, right up there next to the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. But it also has some amazing capabilities. 360 damage per shot is amazing. It has the most view range in tier 10. It's got good DPM, solid penetration, and it also has gear oil, allowing it to reverse incredibly fast, and it features adaptive concealment. So it's got all these different capabilities, and when you pair them together, it allows the 132-1 to be a very, very flexible tank. The only problem is that it doesn't have that gun depression. 5 degrees is terrible, and with no armor whatsoever, and the fact that this thing constantly gets lit on fire, it's definitely got downsides, which you have to keep in mind. But I do think that the 132-1 is probably the most effective tank at spotting and giving your team information early game due to that view range it features, so it's definitely making it into the super strong category. Next we have the 60 TP. And, the 60 is an interesting vehicle because it's got so many strengths and it's got a couple downsides, but honestly, I think the 60 TP needs a nerf. I'm going to be real, guys. I do. Every time I play the 60, it's just the most brain-dead experience. The thing has incredible levels of armor. Hull down, you can't pen it. Even on flat ground, it still has pretty good capabilities. And then you realize that it has 630 damage per shot, with one of the highest DPM values for a 150mm. It also has tungsten, allowing it to get even higher DPM and roll over 700 damage per shot. It has gear oil, allowing it to reverse upwards of 18 kilometers per hour, and it's gun is surprisingly accurate due to its fast aiming time. Sure, it's got lower heat pen and APCR standard, whatever, I know, those values are not the best fun, but it doesn't make a difference. I still consider the 60 TP to be one of the strongest, most brain-dead tier 10s. Whenever I drive it, it's just such an easy farm. Personally, if I were to nerf the 60 TP, here's what I'd do. I would change its APCR to AP standard, and I would buff its heat pen by a little bit. And then in return, I would remove gear oil from the vehicle, and I would also lower its, or no, actually I wouldn't lower its DPM, I just remove tungsten. That's all you got to do. Remove tungsten, and then remove gear oil. Doing those two things would stop the tank from being nearly as mobile in the reverse speed department. It would also stop the tank from hitting you for 700 reliably. And I think that would be the easiest way to balance it. So giving it AP would make it more enjoyable for the user, and then removing those consumables and provisions would also make it more balanced for other players. I think most people would agree with those changes as well. We have the Caro 45-ton, definitely needs a nerf. That vehicle is just too dang strong. It's a 4-shell 380 alpha auto reloader that features 2,850 DPM, solid turret armor, and overall mobility, and even good gun depression at 8 degrees. The Caro really is just one of the most cringe tier 10s to fight. How would I balance out the Caro? Well, I feel like there's two very easy options. The first option to balance the Caro, which I think is the correct route, is to severely hemorrhage the DPM when shooting into the clip. Right now, the reload difference between shell 1 and shell 3 is only about 3 seconds. And because of that, you're only losing like 200-300 DPM when firing all 3 of your shells, which is almost 1,200 potential. What I would do is I would make it so your first shell has really good DPM. Leave it at like 3,000 DPM, even buff it a little bit. I have no problem with that. But then what Wargaming should do is they should make it more like the Bisante, where if you shoot into your second or third shell, it really hurts your DPM. It should be a 3-second difference on your second shell, and then on your third shell, it should be like maybe a 6-second difference. That way, the more you eat into the clip, the more you get punished. Your DPM goes from 3,000 on shell 1 to 2,500 on shell 2 to maybe 2,000 on shell 3. Or maybe even less. That's what I do. That way, it really punishes the user for dumping that clip, and you can't just YOLO around the map nuking somebody for 1,500 damage. And if you do, then you have to wait a much longer time to get those shells back. That's what I do. I think that would be the best way to balance the Caro. I guess you could also remove gear oil, but I don't think that's necessarily the biggest problem. I think that the clipping potential is something that should be punished more if you eat into those shells. We have the CS63, which I'm going to put into the good category. I think the CS it's a good tank. It has good capabilities in terms of the gun. 340 damage per shot is very nice, especially with the ability to use tungsten. It's got every single special consumable, so that's pretty nice. It also has very solid mobility. It's got gear oil. In general, the CS63 is nice because you can kind of build whatever playstyle you want on it. But there's one thing you can't build on it, and that's premium pen. It has probably the worst tier 10 premium pen in the game. It's like 307 APCR or something awful like that. It's really bad. I don't know why it doesn't get a slight pen buff, maybe 315, 320 APCR. That would allow the tank to actually deal with tier 10 heavies and tanks that have really good armor. The problem is all the other tier 10 mediums have the pen, right? I think in a balanced world, the CS's premium pen is actually fine because mediums shouldn't be able to butter through heavy tank armors. But this is Blitz, where wargaming overbuffed calibrated shells, and unfortunately tanks that have APCR premium are the ones that suffer. But yeah, I do think the CS should get a slight premium pen buff, but apart from that, it's got everything else. It's got mobility, it's got DPM, it's got pretty troll turret armor as well. It's kind of like a Leopard, but just a little bit beefier with a slightly worse gun. But yeah, I do like the CS. I think it's a balanced tank. Next, we have the Kron, which definitely goes into the needs nerf category. The Kron is just such a stupid tank. First of all, it has 2,750 effective damage per minute on shell 1. Why? I don't know. The Kron at most should have, in my opinion, around the same DPM as the 116 F3, which is like 2,200 on shell 1. I don't have a problem if it stays at similar DPM eating into the shells, but I have a problem with the fact that just the Kron has good DPM. Why does a tank that have 3 shells, 1,230 potential damage also get good DPM, solid mobility after the buffs, and 18 kilometers per hour of reverse speed? That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have downsides, and you can't give a tank 3 shells, great turret armor, gun depression, mobility, and no downsides. So personally, what I would do to the Kron is, as I said, lower the DPM. First shell DPM, remove it. Have it at pretty low DPM, just like the 116 F3. And then I would also nerf its reverse speed by about maybe 4 kilometers per hour. So instead of reversing at 18, it reverses at 14. I would remove super speed boost, and then I would give it a top speed of 40. So the Kron can actually get up to a top speed that's nice. Right now it only goes 34, I think. So buffing its top speed to 40 would be really nice. It would allow the tank to feel pretty mobile. And then nerfing its reverse speed would stop it from being able to back up for free after shooting its shells, and then lowering its DPM would also stop it from being able to just do whatever the heck it wants. I think that those would be the best ways to balance the tank, but again, you guys can let me know in the comments. The NC-70 Błyskawica is the newest tier 10 that has been added into the game, and I really like this tank. I'm going to put it into the super strong category. I don't think it needs a nerf. I really don't, because it's already pretty balanced in terms of its capabilities, right? The Błyskawica has 4,200 effective DPM when within 50 meters of its opponents, but that's only within 50 meters. So realistically, at 100 meters, your DPM's more 3,400. It's still good damage per minute, but there's plenty of other tier 10s which can keep up with that. For example, almost all the tier 10 mediums can deal that level of DPM, and that's without even mentioning other tank destroyers like the Hori, which actually has more than 3,400 DPM, the 4005, which has around 3,400 DPM, the Foch, which has close to that much when using tungsten. So while I do think the Błyskawica is really dangerous, it's only really dangerous at within 50 meters. And the thing is, it also only reverses at 12. So it's very easy to catch the thing out in the open. It doesn't have great traverse speed. It's actually a surprisingly well-balanced tank for how dangerous the gun is. If you're a skilled player, you can make it work really well. But there's very few players that can actually use the tank really, really well. For example, one of the EU streamers, Peter KW, said he hates the tank and it's a piece of trash. No, I actually disagree. I think it's a really good tank, and that's why I'm putting it in the super strong. But the thing is, it's really playstyle dependent and it's really map dependent. So I think that it's actually fine the way it is. I wouldn't change anything about the Błyskawica. I think it's totally fine. But yeah, I do think it's a very underrated tier 10. I'm surprised that more people honestly haven't been grinding the line. I think it's really good. Now we arrive to the Lion. The Lion is it's a good tank, and you know, I'm gonna put it into super strong. It's an auto reloader. It's got good DPM. The Lion is interesting. It's kind of like a reverse Bisante. The Bisante, the first shell you shoot is the best DPM, and then the second shell is your reserve shell. The Lion, the first shell you shoot is decent DPM, but the second shell you shoot actually gives you the most DPM at around 2,850. So you shoot one shell and then the second shell, and then you're sitting on most DPM. If you shoot into the third shell, which is your reserve shell, you're going to nuke your DPM. I like the way the line is balanced, though, because it means that you can actually shoot your shells, and it also has tungsten, and you don't really get punished for it. So it actually makes the tank really, really dangerous. Plus, you have that additional shell if you ever need it. The Lion's only real downside is that it doesn't have much mobility. It only achieves a top speed of 50. I don't know why. I think it should go like 55, 56. It's just a little slow for how little the armor is. But apart from that, I don't really think it needs any buffs. I don't think it needs any nerfs. I think that it's totally fine the way it is. It's a really dangerous tank, especially if you know what you're doing. It's kind of like a slightly different Progetto is the best way to describe it. We have the Minnow, which is the tier 10 Italian tech tree tank destroyer. And it's hard for me to really say what I want to about the Minnow, because certain parts of the tank I think are really good, and certain parts of the tank are really not so good. But in general, I think the Minnow is just going to go into super strong. There are moments when I feel it's overpowered, when you go up against some 40%er who just dumps his clip into you and takes 1500 health off your tank. But at the same time, you can very easily punish a Minnow player for doing that. I think the armor is really strong, but it's fine for what the tank sacrifices to get the armor. So I honestly think the Minnow is fine. I think it is a super strong tank. It's actually got surprisingly solid DPM at around 2,500 for the gun that it features. And I think that its armor and mobility are fine, so I don't really have a problem with the tank. I think Wargaming balanced it in a way that it's not game breaking. The only reason it goes in the super strong is still that armor paired with the gun is just so hard to counter. And 490 alpha, it chunks. It really does chunk. So yeah, the Minnow's going to go into super strong. Next we have the Progetto 65, which is the tier 10 Italian auto-reloading tech tree medium. And this tank also goes into super strong. The Progetto is an incredibly capable vehicle. It's a 3-shell, 350 alpha auto-reloader. Unlike the Lion or the Caro, you don't really have a reserve shell. Sure, you lose DPM eating into your shells, but it's not that much DPM, so there's really no downside for dumping all 3 of your shells, dealing 1050 damage. Not only that, it's got great mobility and super troll upper plate armor, but I think that the Progetto has also some balanced features about it. For example, it has very weak side armor and turret armor. It's also got pretty weak track wheels, so I think in general, the Progetto, it's definitely on the stronger side, but I don't think it needs to necessarily be nerfed. I think the only thing I do to the Progetto is lower the DPM just a little bit when eating into the shells. That's all I do. But apart from that, I think it's totally fine, and it doesn't really need to be changed, especially for how troll the gun is. Next, we have the Rinoceronte. This is the tier 10 Italian auto-reloading heavy tank. And the Rhino, I definitely think needs a nerf. I think we can all agree that the Rhino needs a nerf. It's interesting because when it was first released, I remember myself and Fatness both saying that this vehicle was perfect. But I realized the reason we said it was perfect was because it just dominated every single match it played, and it didn't feel overpowered, but it is kind of overpowered. The Rhino features 2,600 DPM with a double-shot 420 alpha gun, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with the gun having good DPM. The problem I have with the Rhino is that it doesn't really have a downside. It has amazing turret armor, upwards of 400 millimeters thick when using gun depression, and that's a problem. It's basically a Kron that's more mobile, that also features better DPM, and has just as good turret armor when using gun depression. So if I were to balance out the Rhino, all I would do is I would nerf the turret armor. That's all you got to do. Nerf it by about 20 millimeters so that it's now maybe 340 on flat ground, and that way most tier 10s can pen you, and then only using gun depression its turret is actually reliable. I mean, I remember using a WZ-113, which has the highest heat pen in tier 10 for heavy, 390 mils, and I was aiming it on a Rhino on flat ground, and it was just barely a pen. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. The turret should be a reliable pen against 340 heat on flat ground. And then when you're using gun depression, that's when the turret's strong. I have no problem with it being hard to pen haul down, but I have a problem with it being hard to pen on flat ground. It doesn't really make sense. So that's how I would nerf the Rhino personally. I think other than that, it's totally fine. The Strv K, we're going to put it into good. I think the Strv is a good tank. It's definitely a little underrated in my opinion. It's literally a heavy tank with medium levels of DPM. What more would you want, right? I mean, it's mobile. It goes at a top speed of 48 kilometers per hour. It's got pretty good reverse speed, and it's got pretty solid armor. It's not the best haul down armor, but it's good enough that you'll get bounces. And every time you get a bounce with this tank, you can shoot back twice, right? So even though you only have 350 alpha, let's say an IS-7 shoots you for 460. You shoot the IS-7 back for 350. The thing is that as long as you shoot that IS-7 before he backs in the cover again, you can shoot 700 health off that player. I mean, that's a lot of damage. So I do like the Strv K. I think it's a good tank. I think that it definitely has downsides, but it's actually a pretty balanced vehicle. I wish that more tier 10s were kind of balanced like the Strv. It has good upsides, but it also has big downsides. TVP 5051... This one's tricky. The TVP is very tricky because it's got a really, really dangerous gun, 1240 clipping potential. It's got good gun depression, good mobility. Just trying to think of what I would do to the TVP if there's a way to properly balance it and how I would balance it. I think what we're going to do is we're going to put the TVP into... Dang, dude, this is a challenging one. This is definitely the tank that I've been most stumped on so far. I'm going to say the TVP note needs to go into needs nerf. I was just trying to think of how I would nerf it. And what I would personally do is I would just make the intra clip a little bit longer. And I would also nerf the turret armor. The turret is too troll. It's really hard to pen sometimes, and I don't really like that. I think that if this tank's clipping you, you should be able to shoot it back quite reliably and pen it. So I would nerf the turret armor on the TVP a bit, and then I would also nerf the intra clip just slightly. Not a huge amount. What's the intra clip right now? It's like 1.7 seconds. Let me double check just so I don't look like a buffoon. Go to the TVP, we go to the gun, and it has a 1.88 second intra clip. So all I would do is I would change that 1.88 to 2 seconds. That way, it would make it just a little bit less effective in terms of how quick it can deal that damage. That's all I would do. It still only takes 6 seconds to deal the damage. That's still a very short amount of time. So that's how I would balance it. I would just make the armor a little bit worse and the clipping potential a little bit less effective. I don't know exactly what my stats are on the TVP on my account. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, bro, 24 games, 84%, 3,800. It's an overpowered tank. I do think it honestly is. So I'm glad I put it into the needs nerf category. VZ55 is another interesting vehicle because it's got a double shot 460 alpha gun. It's a really, really dangerous tier 10, and it's one that I think is actually decently balanced in terms of the gun. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put the VZ into super strong. I don't think it needs a nerf. I think it's one of those few autoloaders that is actually not incredibly overpowered. It does have a really good gun, right? With the double shot 460 alpha, it can deal 920 damage really quickly. It also has really good accuracy. It's got combat stabilization. It's got really good pen. It's got all these really solid values. The reason I don't consider it OP is just because of the fact it has very poor reverse speed, poor track wheels, and a super easy hatch to hit. And that's how you should balance autoloaders. You should balance them by having poor reverse speed so they can't get back into cover the moment they've dumped their shells. So yeah, I don't consider the VZ to be incredibly overpowered. Most of the time I fight them, yes, they're dangerous, but they don't scare me that much. So I think super strong is a totally fine spot to put that tank. Next we have the Bashation 25 ton with both the 100mm and the 105, and both are going into the overpowered category. I consider the Batchat to be an incredibly stupid tank, so it's a pretty easy choice to go there. The Batchat has crazy good view range, the second highest in tier 10 for a medium, or a light tank. It also has the best mobility basically in tier 10. It has pretty troll armor. For some reason it gets spall liner. I don't know why, but it does. And then when you pair all of that with 3,200 DPM with the 100mm, and shell reload boost, it's stupid. It really is. It kind of defeats the purpose of the TVP when you can drive a light tank that almost does the same clipping potential, but then has shell reload boost, view range, and mobility, and spall liner. It's just dumb. Personally, what I would nerf on the Batchat, I would nerf the DPM. I think the 105's gun is definitely a lot more balanced, but the 100mm is just stupid. I would nerf the guns on both tanks, though, by, first of all, removing shell reload boost. That alone would completely stop the tank from being as cringe as it is. The second thing I would do is remove spall liner. It's a light tank. It doesn't deserve spall liner. And the third thing I would do is lower the DPM on both guns to around 2,500. That way, it's still enough DPM to deal with what's around you, but also you're going to get punished, right? You're going to get punished for making over aggressions. If people can rush you, they can. On World of Tanks PC, light tanks have worse guns than mediums, not better. In Blitz, Wargaming likes to give light tanks better guns than mediums, and that doesn't make sense. A light tank is supposed to spot, and it's supposed to give its team view range and important flanking positions. It's not supposed to be a tank that goes toe-to-toe with mediums and completely craps on them. And that's the problem I have with the Batchat. I would definitely nerf its gun. Next up, we have the AMX 30B, which I'm going to put in... I'm going to go into needs buff. I like the 30B, but it definitely needs just a slight buff. Personally, I would give it a little bit more DPM. That's it. And maybe I buff its top speed a little bit. But apart from that, it's a fine tank. I don't think it's bad. I don't know why Wargaming had to nerf it. I really don't. That really bummed me out. So good job, Wargaming. I would definitely give it a little buff in terms of DPM. Maybe instead of 3,000, it should have like 3,300. I think it should have the same DPM as the CS63. That's what I do with the 30B. Next, we have the 50B. This is the easiest one of my life. Goes right into needs nerf. Why does the 50 have reactive armor? I really don't understand that. How Wargaming decided, yo guys, let's give a tank that can YOLO with a top speed of 50, also the ability to deal 1,540 clipping potential and reactive. Incredibly stupid. do not give autoloaders reactive. I mean, the 116 has it, but that's all right because the tank has no DPM. The 50B has almost 3k DPM. What I would do to the 50B, I would nerf its intra clip to 3 seconds, and then I would also remove reactive. Those two things would stop the vehicle from being nearly as dangerous. It would still give it good DPM. It would still allow to have it, you know, good mobility, but it would also be punished for making stupid YOLOs in the open. So that's what I do. The Foch, I think with the single shotgun, the Foch is going to go into super strong, and then with the double shotgun, it's going to go into needs nerf. What I would do, very simple, remove tungsten. And that's really it. I mean, you remove tungsten from the Foch, and it's no longer nearly as scary with the double shot. So that's all I'd really do. Apart from that, I think the armor is really, really good, but the track wheels are still weak. It still has a hatch weak point, so I don't think the armor is so strong that it needs to be completely removed. I just think that tungsten should be taken away, and it would stop the tank from being as cringe as it is when it YOLOs you, being able to deal almost 1300 damage in like 3 seconds. I think that's a little stupid. You know what else I'd do? I'd make the intra clip just slightly longer on this gun. Instead of, what is it, 3.7 seconds? I'd make it 5 seconds. I think that's what the intra clip is, 3.7. We can double check. Got the double shotgun already on it, and it is 3.75. I would make that 5 seconds. Think about it. This tank with tungsten can deal 1300 damage in 3.75 seconds. That's faster than basically any other tank's clipping potential in the game. It's a little stupid. It's definitely a little stupid, so that's what I do to the tank. Next we have the AMXM for MLE. I'm just going to put it in the super strong. I don't think it really needs to be changed that much. I don't love the accuracy. I think we can all agree on that, but if it had really good accuracy, it would be so overpowered. It's a large tank, so it gets caught out in the open quite often. So I think it's actually balanced. The gun's good. It's got good DPM. It's got really good penetration on the gold. And the armor on the tank is great when using gun depression. It's terrible on flat ground. It has reactive, which is nice, but it also constantly gets its modules damaged. So there's upsides and downsides, and I think that's how tanks should be balanced. They should be good when you use them properly, but they should also be really weak when you don't, and I think the AMX M4 is a great example of that, so I'm going to put it in the super strong. Next, we have the Projet Murat, which I'm going to put into good. I think the Murat is a good tank. I don't think it needs any buffs. I don't think it needs any nerfs. Maybe give it slightly more DPM. But apart from that, I don't think it needs any changes. It's got a double shot 370 alpha. It's got good mobility. It's got a good gun. And it's got 9 degrees of gun depression with pretty troll turret armor. There's no complaints from me. I have a really fun time driving the vehicle. I think it's really underrated, and more people should consider grinding the line. Yeah, and the Murat's a great tank. We have the E100, which is the Tier 10 German Super Heavy. We have now arrived to the Germans. And the E100 is two different guns. It has a 12.8 and a 15 centimeter. The 12.8 features 2,900 DPM with rammer, and the downside is that it has much worse penetration and alpha damage, 460 instead of 660. I would put the 12.8 of this gun into super strong easily. I don't think it needs a nerfs. I actually really like the way Wargaming balanced it. I think it's a really good gun. I think it makes the tank really fun. Yeah, I got no complaints. The downside is that you don't have good pen, and I think that's totally balanced. I think if you want to have that much DPM, you should suffer in the pen department. And then we have the 15 centimeter, which I'm going to put into good. I think the 15 centimeter has really good capabilities. I think it is slightly worse than the 12.8, but it still has really good alpha. It's got great heat penetration, and especially that high explosive. It's so good to be able to just go chunk and take, 1,000 HP off somebody. It does feel really good. So I think the E100 is totally fine. I wouldn't change a thing about it. I think Wargaming did a decent job balancing that super heavy. The E50M, we're going to put into needs nerf. It's not that hard to realize. There's a couple different areas I think the E50M should be nerfed. First of all, its turret armor needs to be worse. It should not be 340 thick. It should be 320 thick. That would stop the vehicle from being able to just poke and get away with whatever it wants. The fact that an E50M is physically impossible to be penned through the turret armor with a CS63, a WZ121, or half the tier 10 mediums because they don't have enough gold pen is incredibly stupid. I would remove reactive armor. The tank doesn't deserve reactive. It's too good with that. And then I would also nerf its DPM from 3,480 effective with rammer to 3,200. This would stop it from being such a cringe vehicle. I don't have a problem with it being fast. I don't have a problem with it having good armor and even decent accuracy. I have a problem with the tank being able to have more DPM than the average tier 10 medium, more mobility than the average tier 10 medium, good gun depression, ridiculously good armor, and reactive. It can't have everything. You have to take something away. So that's what I would do. Next, you have the grill, which definitely goes in the super strong. I think the grill's amazing now. Gear oil and the buffs to camo net really, really made the grill amazing. The tank is now able to poke without being spotted. It's able to hit its shots, especially with reticle cali. And with gear oil, it's actually able to get into cover. And that was kind of the final buff the grill needed. So if you want a great tank destroyer, go for the grill. But most of you already have it, so I guess I don't need to say that. The Jagdpanzer E100 definitely goes in the needs buff. It's a tank that is good, but it still has some big downsides. The biggest downside of the Jagdpanzer E100, at least in my opinion, is that it just doesn't have the hit points to go up against the heavies. Like, sure, it's got the alpha damage, but Wargaming nerfs its DPM. I don't even understand that. Like, think about it. You can drive a Jagdpanzer and deal 900 damage when you hit a shot with tungsten. Or you can drive an M6 Yo and have almost the exact same DPM and run reticle cali and deal 900 damage in 1.7 seconds. So, like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, sure, the Yag hits hard, but so does an M6 Yo. So does a T57 Heavy. So does every other auto-loading tank. Like, I don't understand why the Yag needed a DPM nerf. What I would do to the Yag is I would buff its hit points to 2,500. This would actually allow the vehicle to go against the heavies and play like a heavy. The whole point of the tank is supposed to be this heavily armored frontline tank destroyer. And the fact that it has the same hit points as, you know, a Grill 15 is just a little stupid in my opinion. It should have more hit points. It should be able to go toe-to-toe with the heavies. I think that would be totally a better way to balance it. The Kampfpanzer 50-ton, that one's going to go into super strong. I don't think it needs a nerf. I think it's really good, but it's also got some wonky downsides. The biggest downsides for the Kampfpanzer, it's not the fastest, and most importantly, its gun is kind of goofy on its accuracy. So even though it does have great DPM, sometimes it also isn't great on the DPM. And the funny thing is the E50M is kind of just better in every way compared to the Kampfpanzer. It's not to say the Kampfpanzer is bad, it's still in super strong, but I think the E50M just defeats the purpose of it. So I think the Kampfpanzer doesn't need any buffs or changes. I just think the E50M needs to be nerfed, and then they're both great, and they both fulfill different roles. The Leopard 1, this one's tricky. The Leopard 1 is great DPM, like the highest DPM for a medium by far, 3,900. It's crazy. It's also got mobility. It's got DPM. It's kind of got everything. I'm going to put the Leopard in the super strong. I don't think it needs a nerf. I think that the E50M and all these other stupid tier 10s just kind of bully the Leopard right now. And it's not, again, it's not to say the Leopard's bad. It's just when you have an E50M YOLOing you with reactive, does your 3,900 DPM really mean anything? And unfortunately, the answer is no. But I do think the Leopard's great. I think that it has such a good gun, and the mobility, especially with gear oil and the adaptive concealment the vehicle features, is so incredibly good that it allows any skilled player to instantly take advantage of the situation they've been given and turn it into a really solid game. But yeah, I think the Leopard one is such a good tank. Next, we have the Mouse. The Mouse is going to go into... It's a weird tank because it's the #1 performing tier 10. So even though I think it needs a buff for a skilled player, I think in general the Mouse is doing all right. So I guess I'm going to put the Mouse into good. I still would like to see the Mouse get an upper plate buff, and I would still like to see it get an accuracy buff. But apart from that, it performs well, and even though I might not agree with that, I still have to put it at least into good because of the performance it has. It's got hit points, it's got surprisingly good DPM, and it's got a gun that hits hard with 460 alpha. But I think calibrated shells really hurt the Mouse because everything just butters through its armor profile. Next, we have the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. This is the lowest win rate tier 10 in the game. Does that make it a bad tank? No. It's going to go into the good category. I don't think the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is super strong because at the end of the day, I feel like a Leopard 1 or most of the other tier 10 lights will kind of bully it. But the Rheinmetall does have some capabilities that are very nice. It has great view range. It has every single consumable, and it has every single ability. It has adaptive concealment and tracer shells, which means that you can not only see who has spotted you, but you can also keep them spotted for 20 seconds. And that's really nice. The Rheinmetall does an amazing job at being a light tank. It's actually exactly how I think a light tank should be balanced. Unfortunately, because all the other tier 10s are so stupid, it kind of pushes it down a little bit. But I think it's a great tank. Next, we have the VK72. Also, let me move the Waffenträger down there because that's another tank that doesn't really... well, there's two of them. There's two Waffenträgers in this list for some reason. The VK72, I'm going to put into good. I don't think it needs any buffs. I don't think it needs any nerfs. It has tungsten, which allows it to hit for almost 700 damage per shot. It has a decent amount of hit points. It has enough armor that people are forced to load gold to reliably pen your lower plate. And with improved suspension in the equipment category, it actually allows the tank to have surprisingly good mobility. It's also got good turret armor. So I think the VK72 is fine. I don't think it needs any changing right now. I think the way it is balanced, and it's totally doable because of that. We have the VK90, which easily goes in the super strong. The VK90 has some of the best values in the game when it comes to armor and pen. The vehicle has 297 millimeters of standard AP pen. It's actually so much pen that when aiming at angled plates, your standard is almost as good as the premium. It's actually kind of wild. Not only that, but the VK90 has combat stabilization, allowing it to be very accurate, and unlike the mouse, it actually hits its shots. It also has a higher top speed than the mouse, going 30 instead of 25. And in general, the armor and side-scraping capabilities are just amazing. So I do consider the VK90 to still be one of the best super heavies. I think the E100, though, at that 12.8 is pretty comparable. So it depends on what playstyle you're going for, DPM or armor. Now we arrive to the last German tier 10, the Waffenträger Alf E100. And this is a tricky tank. I'm going to put it into good. The Waffenträger has some great capabilities. When you use it correctly, you can literally nuke. It has a 3-shot or 5-shot gun, which has the ability to deal 1,700 damage. The downside of the Waffenträger is that it has an incredibly long reload of 28, or maybe it's even 30-something seconds. It's a crazy long reload. In terms of winning battles, it's very hard to carry in the Waffen, but it's a tank destroyer, so whatever. If your win rate's a little lower, it's not the end of the world. In terms of dealing damage, it is pretty nice. 2 clips from the vehicle, you're up to 3,400 damage. It's kind of wild. So I do like the Waffen. I just also feel like it can be so incredibly team dependent. I just wish Wargaming would balance a lot of these tanks in the needs nerf category, and then it would allow the Waffenträger to be a lot stronger itself. The Hori, the interesting about the Waffenträger, just a little sidetrack. I used to hate it, or I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it because it couldn't win. But I've been doing a lot better in it recently, and I actually just posted a video changing my opinion on it. So surprisingly, I actually really like the tank. Hori needs nerf. I will always put the Hori into needs nerf until Wargaming actually nerfs it. The Hori has so many stupid values. It has the highest pen on the standard and premium in the game. It has the highest DPM when you think about it. It's like 3,500 DPM. It's crazy good DPM. It has crazy troll armor. I was in my tier 9, I don't know what it was yesterday, but I was in a tier 9. Maybe it was the Destiny, because it didn't have premium shells. I just couldn't pen the Hori. All I saw was a superstructure. I couldn't pen it. And in return, the thing just snaps you for 545 premium AP every shot. It's so dumb. If I were to nerf the Hori, I would probably nerf it in one of 2 ways. The first way is I would make its accuracy on move worse. Its on movement dispersion is too good, it snaps too many shots. If you make its on movement dispersion worse, it would stop the vehicle from being able to snap the shells. The second thing that I would do to the Hori is I would probably nerf its mobility a bit. Instead of being able to go 45, I would change it to like 38, and I would nerf its reverse speed from 20 to 15. This would stop it from being able to just do whatever the hell it wants and get away with it. I don't have a problem with it having reactive. I have a problem with it being able to just YOLO into the front line, bounce half the shots, and then out DPM and crap on whatever it is. So that's what I would do to it. Very good tank, though, if you want to grind it. STB1, still going to go into the super strong category. Sure, its DPM isn't great, but it's still more DPM than most of the other tier 10s in the needs nerf category. The TVP doesn't have more DPM than the STB. Neither does the 121 does, but what was the other tank? Yeah, the Lion and the Progetto and the Caro. DPM is not the most important value in the game. It's flexibility. I say this all the time. The E5 is such a good example. The E5 does not have the most DPM, but it does have incredible hull down capabilities, which allows it to dominate a ridgeline. So I would easily put the STB into super strong. I think the gun depression paired with the premium AP, the fact that it barely loses damage when loading gold, and also the fact that it has crazy good turret armor definitely allows it to be super strong. It's just a very good holding medium. It does struggle against E50Ms, but I mean everything does, so what a shocker. Now we arrive to the newest tier 10 Japanese tank, the Type 5 Heavy, and this one's not hard at all for me. It definitely goes into the needs nerf category. The Type 5, the only spot that I would nerf on the vehicle is the premium AP. It does 800 damage per shot. That's just stupid. What I would do to the Type 5 is I would still have the 700 damage per shot standard, but instead of the premium AP dealing more damage, I would change it so that it does less damage with more pen. So instead of the Type 5 having 800 damage per shot on the premium AP, I would make it so it has 600 damage per shot with, 315 AP premium. That's what I would do. the ability to roll around a corner, shoot somebody for 800 damage, and back up is just insane. I'm going almost 80% win rate on my Type 5 on my main account. I'm averaging 3,600 average damage in a meta where super heavies suck. So imagine if Wargaming does actually nerf the E50M and all these stupid mediums, and they balance the game. The Type 5 will be way too strong. So I definitely think that the premium AP should just be turned into normal premium ammo. I think you guys would agree with that one. Next, we have the Type 71, which also goes all the way up into super strong. I love the Type 71. It's got a really good gun, 360 millimeters of premium AP. It's got good armor. It's got great mobility. In general, the Type 71 is a fantastic tier 10. I don't really think it needs a nerf. I think in the current meta, yeah, the gun's great. Yeah, the armor's great. But it doesn't have that raw capability to change the outcome of a battle. If your medium flank sucks, guess what? The Type's not going to change that. If the heavy flank sucks, yeah, the Type can absolutely deal with a heavy flank, but the moment the mediums start rolling around, the Type, it just doesn't have that mobility to really deal with them. But it is a really good tank. I think out of all the super heavy styles, I think the Type is probably what I'd choose over a VK90, E100. It just has that raw armor and pen that nothing can really deal with. Chieftain Mark 6 also goes into super strong. I haven't driven the Chieftain in a while, and I kind of need to, but it's still a great tank. The gun is fantastic. It's got great DPM, it's got tungsten, it's got HESH, and it has gear oil. And the tank's got 10 degrees of gun depression. Like, it's got everything. It's got armor, it's got mobility, it's got DPM, it's got pen, it's got HESH. It's kind of like the ultimate British playstyle. Yes, the 2 and 5B is really good, but I do like the Chieftain a lot, and I think that both vehicles fulfill different playstyles. The Chieftain is more of a haul-down tank. The 2 and 5B is more of a... I don't even know what it is. It's more of just like a damage farming tank. The Chieftain can actually hold and go toe-to-toe against heavies. The 2 and 5B is definitely a lot harder to do that. And speaking of the 2 and 5B, let's do that one next. I'm also going to put the 2 and 5B in the super strong. I think it's a great tank. It's got mobility. It's got DPM. It's got a really good gun, especially with the HESH 187 mils of pen and APCR premium. It's just a great tank. The problem with the 2 and 5B is that its track wheels and overall armor are useless apart from the turret. Turret's amazing, but, well, it doesn't matter if your hull is exposed half the time you're poking. So, the 2 and 5B is a really good tank, but, like, the moment things go south for it, it just falls apart immediately. So, that's the best way to describe it. But I do really like it, so we'll leave it in the super strong category. FE2 and 5B 183. We're going to put it into needs nerf. I think we can all agree the 183 needs a nerf. Personally, there's two different areas it needs a nerf. First of all, its camo is way too good. Wargaming buffed camo net, and it allows the 183 to get away with some of the dumbest plays. It should not be getting away with sitting in the open 200 meters away from you unspotted. I'm sorry, it's bogus. I literally got outspotted by a 183 in my heavy today, and I was so pissed off. It's just so dumb. Tank destroyers should not be outspotting heavies, especially when they're in the frickin' open. It's dumb. So I would nerf the 183's camo. And then the other thing I would do to the 183 is I would nerf its accuracy because it got buffed with Refined Gun, so I would nerf it to what it was before Refined Gun got buffed, and then I think it would be fine. I don't really think it needs any other changes. I don't know why it has so much camo. It's a tank that has the highest alpha in the game. It should not be able to just sit in the back and not be spotted. The FE2 and 5, or the FE2 and 7 Badger, the Badger, I'm going to put still into super strong. I really do think it is a super strong tank. Sure, its mobility was nerfed, and the gun is incredibly irritating, but man, when you get the Badger to work, it is still pretty unstoppable. Haul down, that DPM is crazy. It has great penetration, and its mobility might not be good on traverse speed, but it actually accelerates pretty fast, so yeah, I still think the Badger's a really good tank, especially when you have 3,800 DPM paired with fantastic gun depression. It's a very hard tank to deal with. We have the 4005, which definitely goes into the needs nerf category. Did you know the 4005 is the 4th most played tier 10 in the game now? That really shocked me. I was looking at the most played tanks, and yeah, it's the 4th most played tier 10. That's really surprising because it's a vehicle that up until the past couple months never even made it into the top 10. But I think what people are realizing is, you know, they grind the 183 and then they go for the next British tank destroyer and they're like, wow, no, the 4005 is way better. And it is. The 4005 has 3,400 DPM. It has a 1,640 damage clip. It has shell reload boost. It has crazy pen. Over 300 millimeters of standard pen. That's not even mentioning the 400 millimeters of premium pen. The 4005 gun is just absolutely stupid and it's game breaking. I would personally nerf the 4005 by just remove small liner. That's all you got to do. The moment you remove Spall from that tank, the moment it can no longer YOLO. Because people will now not, like with Spall Liner, an E100 shoots you with HE, it does 700, 800 damage. Without Spall Liner, it does 1,000 damage. That's a big difference because it means now everybody's just going to rip into you immediately. So that's what I do. I'd leave everything else the same. Just the moment you remove Spall is the moment the 4005 can no longer make stupid YOLOs. Now we have the 4202. We'll start off with the Royal Ordnance, which is the heat-firing gun, and that's going to go into average. I don't know why you would use the 4202 with the heat-firing gun. It's pretty tragic if you are, I'll be honest. Why would you grind it? Just get an E50M or an M48 patent at that point. With the Hesh-firing gun, I'm going to put the tank into good. Because while it is very good, the 4202 itself still struggles against the top mediums right now, right? You're fighting E50Ms, you're fighting M48 patents, you're fighting these mediums that you can't really Hesh pen reliably, and not only that, they just have so much DPM. Personally, I would still like to see the 4202 just get a little bit better dispersion on move. Once it gets that buff, I think it'd be amazing, but right now, I'm just going to put it in a good. I think it is a good tank, but it also has some downsides, which can definitely make it challenging to drive. The Super Conqueror definitely needs nerf. The Super Conch is probably the best tier 10 overall in the game. I say this all the time, but it really is. If I were to balance out the Super Conch, the only thing that I would do is... I'm trying to think. I think the DPM's fine. It's got good DPM. Its mobility's nice. I would definitely remove reactive. That's probably all you have to do. Once you remove reactive from the Super Conch, it stops it from being able to just kind of YOLO. And that's it, really. I mean, yeah, just remove reactive. Maybe lower the DPM a little bit to 2,700 instead of almost 3K. But that's all you have to do. The reason the Super Conch is so good is because it has 10 degrees of gun depression, a decent top speed with pretty solid mobility. It's got reactive, it's got good DPM, it's got surprisingly good accuracy due to the on-movement dispersion paired with refined gun. So in general, the Super Conch really is the do-it-all heavy. I just think that reactive pushes it over the edge. I think most of us can agree. Vickers Light, I'll put it in average. I don't think the Vickers Light needs a buff. I just think that nobody really cares about it. And it is sad, but it's also kind of true. Like, it's definitely not a bad tank. I like the gun. I like the DPM. And I think the view range with the Troll armor still allows the Vickers Light to be really fun. It's just that it's just not a tank that most people drive right now because the other tier 10s just kind of do better. But I think it's average. That's really the best way to describe it. I don't think it needs a buff. I just think it's average. Concept 1B, definitely going to go into the needs nerf category. What would I nerf on the concept? Well, it's got really good armor. It's got really good mobility. It's got good DPM. And it's got really, really good accuracy. It kind of checks off every single box. And because of that, it just dominates. The moment you get hauled down, the concept is just such an overpowered tier 10. I don't have a problem with it being able to work a ridgeline haul down. I don't have a problem with any of that. I'm just trying to think. It's such a hard tank to actually choose a balancing factor. But I think the easiest way to balance the concept would probably be in the mobility, right? Because the mobility, I feel like, is just a little too good for what other values it has. So personally, what I would do is I would make its mobility, instead of 45 kilometers per hour, down to 40. And I would change its reverse from 16 to 15, and then I would also remove the reserve track mechanic. I think those changes would stop the concept from being able to do as much. It wouldn't be able to get into position as quickly, and it would still be strong, but I think it would just take it a little bit down, and that would probably put it into the super strong category and set it to the, needs nerf category. M6Yo, the 105 millimeter, I'm going to put in the super strong. I know that there's some people that think the 105 is better than the 120. I disagree. The 105 has great DPM. It's got good, damage output and everything, but it's just not a scary gun. It only does 300 damage per shot. I'm not scared of a player using the 300 damage per shot gun. I'm scared of somebody using the 120, and the 120 is easily going to go into needs nerf. The reason why is because it can deal 900 damage in 1.71 seconds. How do you counter that? Let's say you're in a tank destroyer, Błyskawica, and you're frontlining, and you've shot your shell, and then an unspotted yo pokes off to your side. Bam! There's 450. Bam! There's another 450. Backs up. Thing's got 2,500 DPM with that gun. It's the same DPM as your average tier 10 heavy, so it's not even bad DPM. It's got good gun depression at 10 degrees. It's got good mobility. In general, I just don't really see a downside in running the 120 millimeter on the Yo. It's my highest average damage tier 10 on my main account at over 3,700 average damage. It also has like an 80% win rate. It's such a stupid tank. It really is. The Yo needs nerf. Personally, what I would do to nerf the Yo is nerf the intra clip. Change it from a 1.6 7-second entry clip to a 4-second entry clip, just like the 7.52. That way, it can still be really dangerous, but at least the player has a little bit of time to react to what the hell's going on. It's so hard to deal with a tank that can shoot all of its damage into you and back up before you even have the chance to react. So that's what I'll say about the Yo. Next, we have the M48 Patton. Definitely goes in the needs nerf. The M48 Patton has the best turret armor for a medium in tier 10. It has great gun depression. It has really good mobility. It has gear oil. It has reactive. It's got too many things going for it. Same thing as the E50M. Remove reactive armor. And honestly, I don't really think the M48 Patton needs any changes apart from that. I think the turret armor is good, but it has a hatch. I think that the mobility is very nice, but it's fine. All you need to do is remove reactive, and it stops the Patton from being able to YOLO in the open, right? It's a hull down tank. Why does it get reactive to play also on flat ground? So that's what I do. M60, good. I don't really like the M60 a crazy amount, especially when the M48 Patton exists. The M60 is all right, but the turret armor is not nearly as good. What I would do to the M60 to make it different from the M48 Patton is I would give it more DPM, maybe 3600 DPM. That way it's actually got really, really good damage per minute capabilities, and then it would have the weaker turret armor, so it would make sense. You know, that's what I do. It's definitely a good tank. It's just, you know, I wish it was a little bit more different from the Patton. Right now, it just kind of seems like a worse Patton. Next, we have the E3. And the E3 is going to go into super strong, honestly. It really is. The E3 has great mobility. It's got, well, not great mobility. It has good mobility, super speed boost is what I meant to say. And not only that, but it hits really hard, 680 damage per shot. It has great pen. APCR premium is insane when it's on tank destroyers because it can just butter through armor. So it's got pen. It's got enough mobility that can deal with most situations. And most importantly, 8 degrees of gun depression with literally a tomato armor profile. That thing is crazy good on the armor. I don't think the E3 needs any changes, really. I think it can stay the way it is. I think it's balanced. So we'll put the E3 there and call it a day. The T110E4, we're going to put that into super strong as well. The E4 has some great strengths. It has amazing DPM. It has a lot of health. 2,200 with double sandbag is great for a tank destroyer. It has surprisingly good mobility and really good armor. So it's kind of like a heavy, but better. That's what I look at the E4 as. But it has downsides. It only reverses at 10. It also has really, really weak track wheels. So it's got some big downsides. I think the E4 is totally fine. It also only has 4 degrees of gun depression over the sides. So I don't think it needs any changes. I really don't. I think that it is a really capable tank the way it is. I think that it can definitely dominate, but it can also fall apart really quickly, especially to autoloaders. So it's got strengths and it's got weaknesses. So it can stay right in super strong. The T110E5 also can go in super strong. I think the E5 is a similar concept 1B. It has better turret armor overall than the concept because, you know, it's just really beefy. And then the best part about the E5 is that its gun is incredibly accurate. It's got really, really insane dispersion. It's got 400 damage per shot. It's got really good mobility, everything considered, and even pretty good town armor profile. Like, the E5 is a do-it-all heavy. It's a super conk turned into a tech tree. And guess what? It doesn't have reactive, so that's why it's pretty well balanced. I think the E5 is totally fine the way it is. I don't think it needs any nerfs apart from the turret cheeks. I think the turret cheeks should be about 20 mils weaker. That way you can pen it when it's all down. I just think it needs a little bit less turret armor. But apart from that, it's totally fine the way it is. T57 heavy, OP. I'm sorry, it's an autoloader. I always find it funny when people are like, oh my god, Drodles, the 57 heavy is not that good. Me casually pulls out a 6,800 damage game on live stream yesterday driving the tank. Bro, it has a 1,200 damage clip with a 2.5 second intro clip, and it has shell reload boost. That means it can deal 1,200 damage in 3.17 seconds. That is broken. That's stupid. Not only that, it has great accuracy, solid heat pen, and good DPM. The only real downside of the 57 heavy is that it doesn't have amazing armor. But it shouldn't have amazing armor, and neither should it have amazing reverse speed. But what's funny is that it actually reverses at 14, which got buffed. The E5, which is a tank that's needed reverse speed, the E4, the E3, tanks that have actually needed reverse speed buffs, never get them. But the freaking 57, the only autoloader does? That's so dumb. Yeah, I definitely think the 57 heavy needs a nerf. What I would do is I would nerf its DPM. Instead of having 2,700 DPM, I would change it to like 2,400. This would make its reload maybe 3-4 seconds longer. It would allow you to punish the tank more, so that way when it drives out in the open and tries to clip you, it's much easier to deal with. That's at least how I look at it. The T95E6 definitely needs a nerf. It has too much armor. The hatch needs to be nerfed. It's armor right now in the hatch. Even loading gold, half the time bounces shells, and that's stupid. If you hit that thing in the hatch, it should pen. So all you need to do to balance out the E6 is nerf the hatch. make it penetrable with standard and premium shells. Voila, done. Next, we have the Sheridan. We're obviously going to put the Sheridan missile down at the bottom because that is not a tank that anybody can play. Sheridan needs nerf. Again, I hate going up against the Sheridan. I really do. I think it ruins a lot of the fun in the game. How many times are you guys playing in a heavy, for example, and some random Sheridan bozo just pokes a spot, which you wouldn't have been able to spot, pokes you, does 570, and then runs away? There's nothing you can do to counter that. It's so cringe. I was making a video on the Yag earlier today, and I was on the heavy flank in the Yag. I was in Winter Mally. I was in mid. Pretty, safe spot. And my medium flank was winning the medium side, so the Sheridan ran away, unspotted, went into a bush that was about 30 feet in front of me, didn't get detected, shot me for 570 and ran away. And, what do you do? What do you do at that point? You can't counter the tank. It's so cringe. It has 350 mils of heat, which is the highest heat pen for any medium in tier 10. It has great gun depression. It's covered in spaced armor. It's troll to pen. What I would do to nerf the Sheridan is nerf its premium pen, and I would nerf its on-movement dispersion. Doing those two things would stop it from being able to snap shots. It would stop it from being as cringe. If you nerf its premium pen down to 320 heat, it would no longer be able to cut through tier 10s reliably. Not heavies, at least. And then if you also nerf its on-movement dispersion, it can't snap shots. That's all it needs. I'm totally fine with it staying the way it is as long as those two things happen. Next, we have the XM66F, which goes into super strong. I don't really run into XMs, so I really don't consider them to be that scary because nobody really plays it. But even if they are played, the tank has a really big weak point, which is the gun mantlet. You can shoot right through it. So because of that, even though it has great DPM and really good mobility and troll armor, it's still a pretty easy tank to deal with if you know where to aim. So I think the XM is very strong with 3,500 DPM and gun depression and mobility. It's a really, really, really good tank. But I also think that in the current meta, it's just not one of those vehicles that I'm always scared of, if that makes sense. Next, we have the IS-4, which we'll put into good. The IS-4 has some great strengths. It's mobile. It has a top speed upwards of 50 kilometers per hour and using super speed boost. It has still one of the strongest turrets in the game, and it features really good pen paired with DPM. Unfortunately, the IS-4 also has very bad reverse speed. It also features really, really weak track wheels now, and most importantly, its on-movement dispersion is not good. I would definitely like to see the IS-4's on-move buffed, but apart from that, I think it's fine. I think it's actually balanced. I still like the OG IS-4 more. I think we can all agree, but I think the way it is right now, a lot of players like, so it's fine, to be real. IS-7 definitely goes in the super strong. Tungsten paired with 460 alpha paired with incredible levels of armor, no hatches, and decent mobility. I mean, what else do I need to say? Everybody already knows the IS-7's a great tank. If you haven't ground it and you're a beginner, probably the best tank to go for. Object 140, 100% needs buff. What I would do to the Object 140 is give it 3,900 DPM, just like the Leopard would. Leave everything else the same, give it 3,900 DPM. This would allow the Object 140 to actually be really good. I would also give it adaptive concealment, just like the Leopard as well. That way, it's a Leopard competitor, right? It's got armor on the sides that the Leopard doesn't. It's got a much lower profile, and it's got great DPM, but it also has really bad gun depression. It has absolutely no turret armor whatsoever. And I think that's what I do. I think if you did those two buffs, it would allow the 140 to be great. It's not to say the 140 is bad. I do drive it every now and then, and I do an okay game in it, but it just doesn't have anything that stands out, especially when the 907 exists, and the 907 is kind of better. Also, the T100 is kind of better. So that's how I look at it. Next, we have the Object 260. Definitely needs buff. I don't know why anybody would drive the 260 in the current meta. Its armor is not very reliable. Its penetration is really not good. And while the DPM is okay, why would you drive the 260 when a concept E6 exists? Just think about it, right? Why would you do it? So personally, if I were to buff the 260, there's a couple different routes. The first route is increase its top speed to 60. I think that route would be really cool, and that's definitely the route I would like to see Wargaming take. Increase its top speed to 60, and then also give it better pen and a better power to weight. This would allow the 260 to have that same playstyle it has on PC, which is being a super, super mobile heavy tank. And I think that would be really fun. It wouldn't break the matchmaker because the tank itself doesn't have gun depression. It still wouldn't do amazing at everything, but I think that mobility would just allow it to be really fun. Object 263, super strong, definitely. The DPM, the armor, the mobility, all of that combined, the 263 eats it up and allows the tank to be really scary. And when you pair that with the fact that it actually has pretty troll side armor, I do really like the 263. I think it's pretty underrated. It's not an easy tank to drive, the gun's very troll, but if you can definitely get it in the right position, you can hide that lower plate, it's a dangerous tank, especially because the thing reverses at 20 kilometers per hour. It's really scary. Object 268 version 4. Still goes in the super strong. I find it funny that people say the V4 isn't good anymore. I mean, I've definitely said it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still really good. Most bad players, especially people that are running rammer, that prioritize DPM over pen, they can't pen a V4. And even if you can pen it, you have to load gold. And when you pair that with the fact that you can run reactive, it basically means your average damage is like halved. So if you take a tank that has 3000 DPM shooting at a V4, it's then loading gold, which is now more like 2000 DPM. And then with reactive, it's more like 1500 DPM. Like, that's nothing. And then the V4 has 650 damage per shot. It has pretty good DPM, actually, solid pen. And it's got really good mobility. So when you add all those things together, even if you're getting penned in the V4, you can still usually have a pretty good game, just with all the other strengths the vehicles have. So I really like it. Object 268, definitely super strong. The gun on the 268 is amazing at 690 damage per shot. It's got good mobility. It's got great camouflage values. It's the highest camo value tier 10 tank destroyer in the game. It also has pretty troll armor. In general, the 268, there's nothing that stand out makes it broken. It's just that everything about it is so good that it's a jack of all trades tank destroyer. The 777 also goes into super strong. 777 has so many great strengths. It has mobility, 45 kilometers per hour top speed. It has 3000 DPM with 430 alpha and 384 millimeters of heat pen, allowing it to deal with basically anything that's placed in front of it. And when you pair all of that with really good armor, side scraping capabilities, and flexibility, it just allows the 777 to be really good. The 113 is not as good as the 777. I can say that right out of the gate. The 113 is just kind of a slightly worse 777. If the 113 had just a bit better accuracy, I would say it's just as good. But because it doesn't have that armor right now in the current meta and the accuracy, it's just eh. What do we have next? 907. Oh yeah, easy super strong. The 907 features tracer shells, which is one of the most overpowered mechanics in the game. Keeps you spotted for 20 seconds. It's really annoying to get shot by a tank that features tracer shells. Not only that, but the 907 is incredibly mobile, has the best power to weight ratio basically in tier 10. It has great gun depression, and it has some of the best camo values for the mediums class, even as good as light tanks when sitting still. So the 907 has all these great values. It has good turret armor. It's got good gun depression. It has everything. I'd only consider it OP because while it is a really, really good tank, the mediums in the OP category still don't have much trouble dealing with it. But when you use the 907 properly, when you get that gun working, when you get the tracer shells working, and the Leopard 1 accuracy the vehicle has, it does allow the tank to be really, really fun to play. So we're down to the final three, the T100, the T22, and the T62. So let's start off with the T100. I do think the T100 LT needs a nerf. I'm going to be honest. I've been fighting so many T100 LTs recently, and it's because Wargaming decided to buff it about a year ago, giving it DPM. Why the hell the T100 LT needs 3,500 DPM is beyond me. I just talked about how light tanks should not be able to beat mediums. Look at this. 3,400 DPM. It's a light tank, dude. Why does it have that much damage per minute? The T100 LT should be realistically sitting at 3,000 DPM. It has tracer shells, it has the best camouflage in tier 10 for a light tank, and it has crazy good mobility paired with some of the dumbest freaking armor. It does not deserve DPM that literally allows it to beat medium tanks. I don't understand it. So personally, I do think the T100 LT needs a nerf. I think that his DPM needs to be nerfed. That's what I would do. The T22 medium, super strong. While I do think the T22 medium has values that allow it to be overpowered, it also doesn't always work the way that you'd like it to. Like, sometimes you'll make a really aggressive play in the T22 and it goes amazing. But then other times you'll make a really aggressive play and you fall apart in the first 30 seconds. So I think the T22 is really strong, but it's not one of those tanks I'm necessarily like, oh my god, it's a T22. When I see an E50, I'm annoyed. When I see a T22, I'm like, nah, whatever, I can deal with it. So I think that it's definitely super strong with tungsten, adrenaline, DPM out the kazoo with the armor and capabilities it has, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have the gun depression, it doesn't have that pushing potential that necessarily scares me. Finally, we arrive to the T62A, which definitely needs a buff. The 62 is not a bad tank, it's just not a good tank. It needs a little bit more DPM, and that's it. If it had a little bit more DPM, it'd be solid, but it just lacks in terms of the DPM department. If we make our way over to tier 10, and we take a look at the 62 right now, we can see the vehicle with calibrated shells is sitting at like 3,000 DPM. Why? Why does the T100 LT have 400 more DPM than a medium? It doesn't make sense. I don't do bad in the tank, as I said. I've played it 15 games. I have decent win rate and average damage. It's just, I feel like it should be better. I think most of you would agree. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my tier list for all of Tier 10. It's a long tier list. Today's video is 1 hour and 8 minutes. I'm not going to yap any longer, but there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.